G'day, Michael from Ironbark Game Studio, and welcome to the 11th part of this tutorial series, which will cover skinning. Skinning is the process of binding the meshes of the character to the rig, so that moving the rig will also move the character. This involves adding a weight to each vertex of the mesh in relation to a bone or multiple bones, and then each bone will then exert this level of influence over that vertex when it is moved. Some meshes will have weight across multiple bones. This is typically the soft surface or organic parts of the character, whilst other meshes that are hard surface and will remain rigid, such as the armor on the arms or the backpack, this will be weighted to just a single bone. Alrighty, jumping across into Blender, we have our finished rig from last tutorial. And to start off with, I'm going to use the automatic weights tool in Blender to quickly bind a mesh to the rig. I'm going to start off with the body mesh, so let's just go into our collection here and hide everything except for the body. And the reason why I'm going to start off with the body is because this is a more organic, soft surface part of the mesh, and automatic weights works best in this aspect. I'm then going to first select the body, then shift select the rig. I'm then going to hit Ctrl P to parent, and we have a few more options now that the currently active object is a rig, specifically under the armature deform. So under the armature deform, we're going to create with automatic weights. Then going to select the rig and go into pose mode, so Control Tab. And I'm just going to move some of these controls around, and it should be weighted to the mesh. If I move the leg around, and maybe I'll just hit Alt Z to get out of X-ray, we can see that the rig is now moving the mesh itself. And this has done a pretty good job by default here. Again, if we want to reset the bones, hit A to select everything, Alt R to reset the rotation, Alt G to reset the location. So it's looking pretty good already, and there's not really many adjustments which we need to make, with the exception of these fins on the back. When I grab the leg, so let's just go in to side view here, numpad 3, I grab that up, we can see that the fin is clipping through the leg there. It's not a huge deal, but you might want it so that the fin sort of stays a little bit sort of straighter along there, as opposed to clipping through when you move the leg up. So just as an example, we're going to tackle readjusting the weights on this part of the mesh. So we need to get out of pose mode first, so Control Tab. Then with the rig first selected, we want to shift select the body. With the body as the currently active object, we'll hit Control Tab. In our little mode, we're going to go to Weight Paint. So the Weight Paint mode is going to allow us to select a part of the rig, and it's going to allow us to exert some amount of influence over the mesh. So if I hold down Control and then left click on the left leg there, we can see that we've got the leg bone selected, and we've got these colors that pop up. So the red indicates full weight assigned to the selected bone, so the vertices in here with that red, they have full weight assigned to this bone, so if I move this bone, they are always going to be moved with it. The dark blue indicates areas that have no weight assigned to the bone, so the leg bone here has no influence over the toes or the upper leg there. Colors between the blue and the red will indicate some percentage of influence over the mesh. So as I come up towards the knee, the colors become more and more blue, which means that less and less influence is being exerted by this bone. If I hold down Control and then left click the upper leg bone there, we can see the same happening. So as it goes towards the knee, less and less influence is being exhibited around the knee joint here. So the idea here is that the vertices around the knee have part influence from the top of the leg and part influence from the bottom of the leg. If we select a controller that's a non-deformer, then the mesh is going to turn purple. So I'm going to Control left click the leg here, because that's the one we want to work on, this fin on the back. And to make things easier, we're going to turn on mirror, so up the top here, we have mirror on the x-axis. And we have this little drop down option symmetry here. And we want to make sure that the mirror vertex groups is turned on. So that painting vertex groups on one side is going to affect the other. I'm then going to move one of the legs into a position where we can see the problem occurring. So let's just move that back leg so that we can see the fin clipping through the mesh. so that when we work on this, we can visualize it up here as well. So in terms of painting weight paint, this is going to be fairly similar to our sculpting tools. So F is going to adjust the size of the brush there, and Shift F is going to affect the strength of the brush. This isn't really the one we want to concern ourselves with though. What we really want to control is the weight. So Control F is how to adjust the weight. So a weight of 0 is going to come out blue, and a weight of 1, Control F, a weight of 1 is going to be red. Below the draw brush is the blur tool, and it's going to be really useful for smoothing off areas once we've added in some weight. So what I want to achieve here is I want less weight on the lower leg bone. That's what's bending it up a little bit too much. And I want more weight on the upper leg bone. So starting off with the lower leg bone, going to reduce the weight, so Control F, lower this something like that, and then I can just draw on like this. Then I'm going to smooth it off with the blur tool. Not much has happened yet because we need to paint on some extra weight for the leg above. So the draw brush, Control F, let's bring up the weight. And paint on the top so we can see the effect it's having here. Got to make sure we evenly paint around both the sides. And we might want a little bit more weight on the very tip, so Control F, bring that up. Get a bit more of a yellow there. And now we're going to want to smooth that off. So grab the blur brush and make that transition a little bit nicer down there. Let's select that one there and just smooth that off a little bit more as well. So, and now we can see for the leg, when we grab this foot controller, the fin isn't clipping through. It is sort of stretching and getting smaller. So there's always a price you have to pay with weight painting on how things are going to bend and deform. I think this looks nicer than the fin just clipping right through the leg though, so I'm happy with that. If you really wanted it to be absolutely perfect, then you would need another bone in the fin here, and then animate that bone when the leg is brought up, which is a little bit too much just for a simple game character. Alt grab, clear the rotation and location. So we might come around a little bit later and see if we need to adjust any of these weights for any of these controllers, but for now I think it's looking pretty good. So Control Tab and go back into object mode. Let's bind the head mesh now. So this is also another more organic piece that we can use the automatic weights with. So unhide the head there, select the head first, Shift select the rig, Control P, and then armature deform with automatic weights. Shift select the head, Control Tab, and then go into weight paint. So we select the bottom there, see it's influencing around the neck. Control select the top, it's influencing the top of the head there. Now again, we're going to have to readjust the weight paint on the head. So if I rotate this on the X, we can see that it's really stretching the jaw around, whereas realistically when I rotate the head, I want the whole jaw to come with it. The only thing that really should be stretching is the neck down here. So an easy way to adjust this on a single piece like the head is using the gradient tool. So I've got the gradient tool here, and if I left click and drag, we can see it's affecting the full gradient from a particular point there. So I'm going to bring the weight all the way up to 1, Control F, up to 1, and I might go into front view, and I'm going to left click and drag down, and I want that weight pretty much affecting the entire head. Might even go from the side view and do it from a little bit more of an angle, so I capture the chin in there. If I hide the body, we can see some of that weight around the neck. Now, I don't want the head to actually be affecting the bottom of the neck. I want the neck bone just to be affecting the base there. Let's just get the head as good as we can get it, so that the sort of chin and jaw nice and red with the strength. And then I might bring the strength, or the weight, all the way down to 0, so Control F, and then slide that to 0, and then paint from the base up just a little bit. So I don't want the top head bone affecting this part of the mesh here. So if I select the head, RX, it's going to be bending around there. And we might even want to blur off the base there. So we'll go with something along those lines. We can select the neck in here, and that's influencing a bit of the mouth and jaw as well, so we're getting a little bit of a funny stretch there. So again, I'm going to go to the gradient tool, bring the weight all the way down to 0, and then remove all of that head from the neck bone. Might just flip this around and then bring it up from the base just a little bit. So rotating the neck will rotate the whole head, because that's a parent of the head bone. And then rotating the head bone, it's just going to rotate the head, but not much of the neck. Might even take that up a little bit more. And then just blur it. And I forgot to turn on X symmetry for the head there. So let's just make sure it's nice and even. And I think something like that will work nicely. So Control Tab, go back to object mode. I want to bring my body back and see how that's working with the head here. So select the rig, the body, Control Tab, weight paint. And if we select the neck, let's see how this is all working. So the head's sort of rotating a little bit more than the neck, because the neck has less weight on it for this bone, so we might have to fix that. And the head is going okay. So let's grab the neck bone here, and we might just drag a little bit more influence downwards. Also see the shoulders, they're also influencing the neck as well, so we don't want the shoulders to influence the neck here. So I'm just going to go to my paint, and I'm just going to remove some of that influence there. And we might just bring it down from the back a little bit too. And it's influencing a lot of the opposite side as well. So I do find that the shoulders tend to influence a fair bit more than you actually want them to on the body. And let's smooth this back a bit. So rotate the shoulder. It's looking better. Smooth that off a little bit more down there. And I want to smooth this across just a little bit more. Just so that when it rotates around like that, it doesn't clip too much, so get a very very light brush, and bring that back just a little bit. Okay, something like that. Hopefully that's mirrored on the other side. Yep, mirrors on, so that should be all good. And the neck should be behaving a little bit better now. Yep. And maybe we'll just get the gradient tool, and with a high weight, we'll drag it down just a little bit. One thing to note though, if you bring it down too much, it's going to affect all of the mesh. So we obviously don't want the neck to affect these shoulders there. So let's grab a sort of medium brush, a bit more than that, and paint this in a little bit and really smooth that all out. Alright, I think that's a pretty good effect. So let's leave the neck and the head as is for there. It's going to go Control Tab, go back to Object Mode, and we'll work on the next mesh. So the next one we'll tackle is the eyes. So we'll open up, so we'll unhide eyes low, and we'll select the eyes first, Shift select the rig, and Control P. And this is a bit of a different one. We don't want to use automatic weights for this. So for meshes that are going to be weighted to just a single bone, if we did automatic weights, it's going to take us a lot of time removing that weight from all of the other bones. So instead of weighting it to any bones to start with, we're going to use empty groups. Select the eyes now, Control Tab, weight paint, and no matter what bone we've got selected, it's going to have no influence over the eyes. So we want the eyes to be associated just with the head bone, so when the head rotates, the eyes will rotate around with it. If we did have individual eye bones for facial animations, then we'd want to attach them to the eye bones. Now instead of manually painting them in with a paintbrush here, I'm going to hit Tab to go into Edit Mode, and I'm going to press A to select all of the vertices of the eye, and then I'm going to go to the Object Data Properties. And when we added the eye mesh to the rig with the empty groups are these groups here. So these are vertex groups, and this is what's being assigned as weights to the rig. And currently all of these vertex groups are empty because each one of these vertex groups represents one of these bones and the weight associated with it. So by selecting all of the vertices of the eye and then making sure that we've got the head group selected, and then with the weight at 1, we can click on Assign. And once we've assigned that, we can press Tab to get out of Edit Mode, and we can see that the eyes appear red with full weight assigned to the head bone. Select any of the other bones, they're going to be blue. And if we rotate this, then the eyes should follow with. Control Tab, go back to Object Mode, and now it's going to be a matter of adding in all of the other hard surface objects, or the belts and straps and pieces of armor, and assigning them with one weight to just one single bone. So if we select the belt lower and unhide that one, select it, Shift select the rig, Control P, and then empty groups. Select the belt with Shift, Control Tab, go into weight paint, select the spine .01 there, Tab, press A to select all the vertices, make sure the weight set to 1, make sure spine's there, and go Assign, tab, and now that belt has been assigned just to the spine bone there. Control tab, go back into object mode. We'll select the belt's upper there. Shift select the rig, Control P with empty groups. Shift select the upper belt. Control tab, weight. Make sure we've got the spine 2 selected this time. Tab A, assign spine 2. And there we go, that belt's assigned to just that single bone. Control tab, go back to object mode, and I'm going to select the straps next. For this one, I'm going to go automatic weights. So these straps, they sort of go across multiple bones, and they're going to be influenced by multiple areas such as the shoulders and the waist and the chest bones. So we can't really deform them just based on a single bone, so we'll go automatic weights, and we'll see what this does if we go into weight paint. And this is going to involve a fair bit of cleanup so that each of these bones are affecting it in the appropriate way. So rotate the chest area, and that's not looking too bad there. Now if we go to the shoulders, rotate that. That's pretty good. We can see it's sort of separating just a little bit there. It's not too noticeable though. And then this part of the spine, we can see that the little details are sort of coming off a little bit there. This is a case where I might come in, say select this detail and try to match it up with the color of the associated strap. So for the spine 2, it's kind of like a green color, so maybe a 0.5. And try this one. It's a very low weight there. I suspect this one's probably the problem here, so let's try to add that teal color. A little bit too much, let's go down a bit. That's better there. And we'll do the same for that one there, so let's select the vertices of that one. It's a green color, so let's try to match that up. We'll select the other bones and try to match the colors up. This is one of the issues of having meshes that are separate from each other. It gets a little bit harder to make sure that they're all lined up nicely, or that they all deform in the same direction. I think that's going to be good enough for now. Just make sure it's not being caught by any of the other bones. So it looks like the arm is catching them here. So I don't want the arm to have any influence over these, so I'm just going to go Tab A to select all of them, and then just go remove. And that bone, that arm bone there, is not doing anything. It's looking pretty good. Just make sure if we move this hand. Alright, none of those are affecting it. And you're never going to get it perfect. You can spend a lot of time messing around with this, but sometimes you just got to go, it's good enough for now. Sometimes you just make it worse when you try to put more effort into it. Alright, Control Tab, let's get out of that. And we'll do the next piece, so let's go backpack. This one will be pretty easy, we just need to weight it to the chest bone. So rig, backpack, rig, Control P, empty group, backpack, Control Tab, weight, select the spine.03, select the whole backpack, assign it with a weight of 1. Easy done. Back to object mode. Let's go to this knee armor here. Control P, we'll go with empty groups for this one. And we're going to go for the upper leg for the knee. So make sure that bone there is selected. Tab, A, and assign. I should point out that we do have mirror modifiers on a lot of these armor pieces. So the armor pieces which are being mirrored across the body have mirrors, and they are also working with the deform. So I didn't touch the right one there because that's the mirror, but if I move the right leg, we can see the knee joint or the knee armor is going with it. Upper leg armor, Control P, empty groups, Control Tab, weight paint, easy one. Just want to select the upper leg here and assign that whole thing like that. We've got the helmet to put on. Helmet, Control P, empty groups, white paint. Of course, we'll select the head for this one and assign that. Let's make sure that's all working with the head or the rest of the body there. We've got the armor to do, so let's go the lower arm armor there. P, empty groups, Control Tab, weight paint, and this is just going to be on the lower arm there. And we'll grab the upper arm armor, select that, Control P, empty groups, weight paint, upper arm, assign that. And we've got the shoulder armor as well. And the shoulder armor, again, that's going to be with empty groups. And I might just assign this to the upper arm there. So possibly could assign it to the shoulder bone, but I think we'll get a better look with the upper arm armor. Shoulder joints are always a bit of a tricky one there. We grab this. Yeah, I think that's going to work better than trying to assign it to the shoulder bone. Okay, moving down, we've got some little details around the waist here. So we've got the container there. Control P, empty groups. And that's just going to be around the spine one. And we have the capsules in here. Now this is a bit of an interesting one because these are all linked to each other. They're all linked objects still. So if I edited one of these, it's going to edit all of them. And we essentially need to unlink this data. So if we select one of these meshes and we go to its object data in here. So if we go to its object data properties, we can see that there are 13 instances of this data. So I'm going to select all of these here. I'm going to go to Object, Relations, Make Single User, and Object and Data. So each one of these should now be unlinked. It's no longer associated with the same mesh data. And if we just grab all of them and hit Control J to turn them into a single mesh, that'll be easier to assign to the rig instead of doing it one by one. I accidentally just assigned that to the toes, so let's just remove that. Make sure I do actually have the spine.01 selected and assign that. There we go. Oops, and accidentally captured these ones at the back as well, which were part of that, so they should be assigned to the backpack there. So let's just go back into object mode. I'm going to select these two, Control L to select full meshes, and then P, separate the selection. And these have weight paint assigned, so I'll just need to go into the weight paint there. And they've got it assigned to the hips, so let's just select the hips, press A to select all the vertices, and remove those from the spine.01, and we want to assign them to spine.03. Now if we rotate that spine there, that'll follow with the backpack, and these here, they'll follow with the belt. Getting pretty close now. We do have these plates on the chest here to weight, and this is making me a little bit nervous because they are sort of stretching across multiple bones, and they are sort of hard surface objects, so this one might be a little bit trickier. So let's just select it and parent it to the rig, and we're going to go automatic weights with this one. Select them and go into the weight paint, and we rotate that. They are clipping a little bit when they rotate back. What about this one? And they're sort of separating a fair bit with that. That's not too bad though, that's actually not a bad look. And they're not associated with any of the other ones, which is probably a good thing. We do have some weight on the hips though. So let's just go spine 1. And I'm going to assign full weight to spine 1. And then we'll select spine 2. And I think that's going to be okay, the weight that's already there. And for the hips, we might just remove all of that weight. It's clipping a little bit, but it's not too bad. I think if we remove some of the weight, or all of the weight from these bottom ones from spine 2, no, we actually need a little bit more weight onto spine 2. There. So now I've got rid of that clipping through the body. Cool. You can actually stretch it quite far before it starts clipping again, but I don't think the character's ever really going to be rotating that far back, so I think we'll leave it for now. Okay, now to the most complicated part, and that is going to be the coat, or the cloth. So we'll unhide the coat outer, and the reason why this is going to be the most complicated is it's because it's spanning over the most number of bones, and it's going to have a lot of clipping between the cloth and the pieces behind it. So it's probably going to clip a fair bit with the body and the other hard surface elements. So let's just do an automatic weighting here. And we'll see how it looks by default. Let's grab the leg, move that up, move that out, and we can see that it's sort of tearing away from the belt there, which is not what we want. And we're getting a little bit of clipping here. It's not too bad at the front actually, that's quite good. And what if we bring this back? Yeah, and it's sort of tearing around that belt area there. So let's grab this leg bone here, hit tab to go into edit mode, and I'm going to select this top row of vertices here. And I'm just going to remove it from the upper leg. So this leg no longer has any influence over those top vertices. I might actually do it with these 2 rows of vertices, remove them from the upper leg. And I'll need to do it with the other side as well. And also make sure that mirror symmetry is turned on. And now we can grab our blur brush and try to smooth this off. Still got a bit of clipping, but that's much better, and the cloth isn't tearing away from the waist anymore. We'll use a similar technique for this one up here, so I imagine when we rotate this, it's going to have a fair bit of clipping and probably tear away. Yeah, like that. So this one, we don't want this top row associated with that bone, so remove that from spine. Okay, and we'll just need to smooth this off. Now we don't want any influence of the hips on that top piece of cloth, so let's just grab that whole cloth with Control L and just remove that from the hips there. And we want the top row of vertices of the bottom cloth associated with the spine there, so we'll just assign that with full weight. That, and of course we'll smooth it all out. And we might pull this one back a little bit. Really want to get rid of this clipping in here, and I feel like the way I might do that is by adjusting the body mesh. So I'm just going to go get out of weight paint for that and get into weight paint for the body. Okay, let's go back into the weight painting of the cloth and see if we can fix up these legs here. I think it might need a little bit more influence here. That actually seems to work by adding some weight to the sort of hip area. Sort of neutralizes out some of the weight that the legs are getting. I want some more influence coming down here. And let's just leave that for now for the sort of the outer coat. We do also have an inner coat as well. So let's unhide that. And we'll add automatic weights to that. And let's see what we can do with this. Turn on X mirror. Problem here is that I've got influence from one leg affecting the opposite side, so let's just yeah, remove that side. That's what we want there. Yeah, that's looking really good. Alrighty, and I think I'm pretty happy with the result so far, so let's just go into pose mode, and we'll just grab these legs around. We'll see if there's any noticeable clipping. That's looking pretty nice around the waist with the cloth there. If we grab this leg and bring it back. So there's probably a little bit of cleanup I could probably do around there, but this is a pretty extreme sort of pose, I suppose. We rotate the waist around. The coat's looking pretty good. We do have some clipping, the little chest pieces coming through the coat on some sides. Stuff like that, that's probably just going to be unavoidable, really. Check out the chest. Looking pretty good. Again, we do have some stretching of these sort of like hard surface pieces of the armor. But again, this is really going to be unavoidable in game development. There's no way we could rig this so that each piece of armor remains rigid. It's going to have some sort of influence from bones. And that looks good. Particularly like how these straps flow along there. And the arm, if I grab this and sort of rotate it into a like a walking pose. And all the armor pieces are following along nicely. Also didn't check the fingers as well, so let's just make sure that if we double tap X, curls the finger. We select all these finger controllers here, double tap X, they curl into a fist, which is good. And not that we're going to have the head active whilst the helmet's on, but if we do rotate the head, it's not clipping through the helmet, which is also nice. Awesome. Select everything, Alt R, Alt G, and we are done. So that was probably the most different aspect of 3D we've touched so far, but as you can see, this is very important in bringing everything together. There's no point in making a rig if you're not going to bind it to the mesh. When playing games, you'll likely notice or spot areas of clipping between meshes. Even in AAA professional titles, there's going to be a fair bit of clipping with game characters. It's just the way it's going to go. In the next tutorial, we shall actually create an animation for our character. This is going to be in the form of a simple looping idle cycle and get used to the basic animation features in Blender. A second animation tutorial will cover creating a walk cycle. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you found it useful. You can check out our Patreon link in the description with a variety of rewards such as starting files, tutorial notes, and early access to the rest of the series. And I'll see you in the next one.